Hi, hey, hello, how are you? And welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to run through all of the books that I read in Q1 of 2026. I did not end up putting out videos individually for January, February, and March of what I read those months, so I figured I still want to talk about those books, and I do already have some footage from January and February reads, and I wanted to just like finish that up and get this video out for you guys so that you can hear me talk about what I got up to reading in the beginning of the year. I'm not sure if I will continue doing my book reviews in quarters for the rest of the year or if I'll go back to monthly, but here are the first couple books that I read in January and February, and then it'll cut back to me now talking about the last two that I finished in March. So to start the year off, I finished Holiday Ever After by Hannah Grace. This is the fourth book that I've read by Hannah Grace. I read the Maple Hills series over the past couple years whenever those books came out, and I really enjoyed them. I rated all of them 4 or 5 stars, so I was pretty excited for this one, and I was really excited that it was a Christmas romance. This book centers around our two main characters, Clara Davenport and Jack Kelly. Now, I know this is nitpicking, but I just have to say, because it was like my first thought, it bothered me that the main character is Clara, because Clara is one of the main characters of the Nutcracker. I feel like everybody knows that and everybody associates the Nutcracker with Christmas, and like it just felt really on the nose. It was giving Hallmark in not the best way. And then our dude is named Jack Kelly. What the fuck? That's the main character in Newsies. I know that Newsies has nothing to do with Christmas, but like his name is Jack Kelly. Like first and last, it's the same name. Why? Why, Hannah Grace? That's all I want to know. That aside, this was a very cute book. I rated it 4 stars. It had the Hannah Grace charm that you're looking for if you read the Maple Hills series. I really enjoyed that. It is spicy, but not as spicy as the books in the Maple Hills series, I would say personally, so there's that. Our story is about Clara Davenport, who is a part of the Davenport family that owns Davenport Toys. They have created this viral doll that is a complete copycat of a doll from a smaller company, and there's drama over it. There's big time drama on the internet, and so essentially her dad is like, okay, if you can go to this small town and kind of hush up the drama, then maybe I will give you a promotion. So that's what she does. She goes to this small town, and unbeknownst to her, the creator of that doll is Jack. They meet initially in a bar. They don't know who the other person is, and they have this strong connection. And then the next day they meet again and they find out each other's roles, and then it's like not necessarily enemies to lovers, but there's friction there. I thought the story was cute. I really liked the main characters. I really liked the side characters. I love a small town romance, and so all of the other characters in the town were so cute and charming, and I do recommend this book. The second book that I read this year was Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph. This is a YA thriller. I did not realize that when I read this book. I know this sounds really dumb, but I was like, oh, this is just a thriller where the main character is a teenager. That's a YA thriller, girl. I don't know why I didn't really think about that as being a genre, but it definitely is. So I liked this book, but I am not really looking to continue reading YA thrillers, so I don't know that I would continue to read books by this author if that's all he writes, which as far as I know it is. But I did like this one. This was 4 stars for me. This is a book about a British teenage boy named Tom. He and his family have just moved into this new house. It's kind of like his mom's dream house. Him and his mom have been through some stuff together. after she and Tom's dad divorce, she kind of goes through like a string of not very good boyfriends. They're kind of verbally and maybe physically abusive. They're not great. So they've been through it. And then she finally finds a husband that's great. He's a great character, and they get married, and they're all gonna move into this house together, and everything's going well. It's going great. It's cute. But Tom notices some weird things when they move into the house. There are holes in the door frame that look like where you would put locks, like as far as I was understanding, like the sliding locks, but they're on the outside of the door frame. So those locks would be used to keep someone in, not to keep someone from going into the room. You know what I'm saying? And he's super creeped out by it. Anyway, he figures out that this house used to belong to this girl, Amy, that shows up at his school as the new girl. He's very intrigued by her, and he's weirded out that he is living in what used to be her house. There are lots of strange things about this girl, Amy. She is very mysterious, and Tom kind of becomes obsessed with figuring out what's up with the house, what's up with Amy and her family. And when you find out what happened, it's kind of insane. It's kind of crazy. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's not where I thought this was going. And then as you continue through the book, it just kind of gets more and more wild. But I thought it was really well written. I thought that the twist was interesting, and then I think that the follow through after you find out what the twist is really decent. And if I was a teenager and I read this, I would be shitting myself. So I would recommend it. 4 stars. Then I read Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. This was my first 5-star book of the year. I deeply love this book, and I've thought about it many times since I finished it. I know that a lot of people read this book last year when it came out. This is actually a debut novel, which is insane to me, and I will for sure be keeping a lookout for whatever Holly Brickley's next release is, because I really like her writing, and I think she's got such an interesting take on literary fiction, and I want to see what she does next. A lot of people had less than 5-star reviews of this, and I think that that's really interesting. I think that sometimes that just has to do with what your expectations are before you read a book. I didn't have any expectations. I purposefully went out of my way to make sure that I did not watch other people's reviews before I read this book so that they wouldn't taint my view of the book. All that I knew going into it was that it's about a relationship and there's music. I thought that sounded interesting, and also I think I did hear somebody say that it was a toxic relationship. And at first I was like, that's not for me. But then I was just super intrigued by this cover. Like, I feel like there's just something about it that was really drawing me in. It really caught my attention. And so I was like, you know what? No, I do want to read it. And then I got gifted this book for Christmas. This is a literary fiction, but it's also definitely a romance. It's not a sugar and spice romance whatsoever. This is, I feel like, kind of a realistic book about relationships. It is on again, off again. It does span over a few years. We've got our main characters, Percy and Jo. Jo is a musician, and Percy is not a musician, but she knows so much about music, and she has the ear. Like, she just knows what's going to be an amazing song, what's going to be an amazing hook, and what's going to do well. And so Jo begins to lean on her and her opinion in order to continue writing songs. The way that Percy and Jo talk about music and dissect songs, first of all, it's all real music that they're talking about, except of course like what Jo writes with Percy. But I really appreciated that because some of these are like songs that I know, you know, and then the ones that I didn't know, sometimes I would look them up and listen to them so that I knew what they were talking about. And the way that they talk about music really reminds me of how my wife listens to music. She definitely has the musical gene. She can play multiple instruments. So I really enjoyed reading that. It like made me smile. I thought it was really cute the way way that they talk about music with such passion. It was just really inspiring in my opinion. I also like that it takes place in the early 2000s. I thought that that setting was really interesting and fun. To address the claims that Percy and Joe's relationship is toxic, I personally disagree with that. It's definitely not perfect, but like that's realistic. That's real life. I think that they're just super young in the beginning of the book and you're just watching them grow up, and so I think the choices that they make and the things that they say make sense for how old they are. I wouldn't call it toxic. I think it's on and off again for sure, but I just wouldn't go as far as to call it like a word that has a uniquely bad connotation, if you know what I mean. This book also reminded me of the book When We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I don't really know what it was about it. Maybe it was that part of it is set in New York. Maybe it's the early 2000s vibe. I don't know, but it made me just be like, yes, this is an instant favorite and I definitely want to read this again eventually. The last book that I finished in January was When She Was Me by Marley Bush. This is a thriller. It is also a debut novel, which is unfortunate because I hated this book. I gave this book 1 star. I do not recommend it whatsoever. I feel really bad saying that because I know that obviously this author is really passionate about this book and worked really hard on it, but my job is to review books, not to be nice. So I'm gonna give you my honest opinion, and honestly, this was bad. This book is extremely melodramatic. I think that it is poorly written. It has the issue of being super cringe in that the main characters are constantly doing something or saying something and then being like, that reminds me of the bad night, the night that everything changed. And you're just like, what happened? Can you just tell me what happened? And I'm not joking, you do not find out until like the second to last chapter. It is maddening, it's frustrating, and it's not like it's building this momentum and you're super ready for, like, you're just annoyed, you're frustrated. It is non-stop. I'm pretty sure that the author just uses the same phrases over and over again too. Like, it's literally like the bad night, the night that everything changed, and I just couldn't take it. I deeply considered DNFing this book, but I was actually on a trip when I got to the point where I wanted to DNF it, and there was not much else to do, and I was like, you know what, no, I want to find out what happens in the end. I'm gonna finish this book, and I did. And like, was that a waste of time? Probably, because the ending was, it was just not good. It was not good. To tell you about the plot though, we've got our 2 main characters. We've got Cassie and Lenora. They are twin sisters. They live in this remote cabin that is normally rented by people to glamp in, but they live in their cabin permanently. They intentionally wanted to live somewhere secluded because of what happened on the bad night. And right off the bat, you know something weird is going on. Cassie is definitely more of a typical character, and then Lenora has some very strong agoraphobic tendencies. She also clearly has PTSD. I would argue that Cassie probably does too, from whatever happened in their past. And you also find out in the beginning that nobody knows where their mom is, and also their dad is dead. But you don't know how it happened, and you're like, did they kill them? What? But you have no clue what happened, and you're frustrated about that. It's not interesting. It's frustrating. And so the chapters go back and forth from Cassie's point of view and Lenora's point of view. There is a new caretaker, a new like owner of the property, and so they're suspicious of her. And then there's a new family that comes to rent one of the other cabins, and their daughter goes missing. So that's another mystery that's happening. And then woven throughout all of this, there are these chapters that take place in the past, and they are from the perspective of one of the twins, but you don't know who. And I think that could be an interesting way to write a thriller, but like a lot of the other stuff in this book, it just gets to a point where it's extremely frustrating. It's not fun anymore. You're not enjoying it. I do have to say, I could have sworn that I looked this book up before I read it for trigger warnings. I guess I didn't, but big old trigger warning for SA. That seriously caught me off guard, and I really didn't appreciate that. So yeah, all that to say, this book was not good. I did not like it. I do not recommend it. Then I read Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. This was a January 2026 Book of the Month pick, and I got this with my Book of the Month gift card that I got for Christmas. This is a mystery thriller. I'll read the synopsis for you guys. The little blurb says, everyone at Chantilly's bar noticed out-of-towner Camille Bayliss, red lips, designer heels, sipping a Negroni, but that woman wasn't Camille Bayliss. It was Aubrey Price. Camille Bayliss appears to have the picture-perfect life. She's married to a hotshot lawyer and the daughter of a wealthy Louisiana family. Only nothing is as it seems. Camille believes Ben has been hiding dirty secrets for years, but she can't find proof because he tracks her every move. Aubrey Price has been haunted by the terrible night that changed her life a decade ago, and she's convinced Benjamin Bayliss knows something about it. Living in a house full of criminals, Aubrey understands there's more than one way to get to the truth, and she may have found the best way in. Aubrey and Camille hatch a plan. It sounds simple, but for 12 hours, Aubrey will take Camille's place. Camille will spy on her husband Ben, and the two women will get the answers they desperately seek. Except the next morning, Ben is found murdered. Both women need an airtight alibi, but only one of them has it, and one false step is all it takes for everything to come undone. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I think that it was pretty good. It just wasn't super duper memorable to me, in my opinion. I think that somebody else might really like it, but I felt like it just wasn't hitting the way that I wanted it to. The twists weren't shocking me. It wasn't like I guessed what had happened, but when I found it out, it just wasn't really interesting to me. I feel like at this point I've read a decent amount of thrillers, and I just don't think that this is a Hall of Famer for me. However, if that summary sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a go. I feel like 3 is what I normally rate a book when I feel like it's good. It's just not meant for me, and that's totally okay. So if this is tickling your fancy, I'd say give it a go. After that, I listened to the audiobook of Bound by Ali Hazelwood. This is, I believe, her newest release. To be honest, it's really hard to keep up because Ali Hazelwood does not stop. She is constantly grinding, bless her, but I went into this completely blind. I was getting the vibes in the beginning that it was kind of a vampire story, and spoiler alert, it is vampires, but they don't call them that. They're called the Revenant, and they're very much we're not vampires, but it's you kind of are. I will read the synopsis just so that you can get a good idea of what this book is about, because I had no idea when I first started reading it. This says, a reluctant con artist and professor with too many secrets are bound together in Ali Hazelwood's intoxicating new dark academia romance. That's true. It is dark academia. I totally forgot about that. And I really liked that aspect of it as well. Vero Mercer grew up with grifters as parents, and she knows her way around a con. When grad school bills pile up and her friends are in trouble, she turns her art history skills into a forgery side hustle. It's supposed to be a short-term deal, but her work draws the attention of Dr. Victor Ashworth, a reserved, very British professor. Instead of turning her in, Ashworth kidnaps her politely and makes an unusual offer. Forge a mysterious ancient manuscript for him. Soon, Vero finds herself spending long nights with Victor, bent over rare vellum samples and obscure inks. As the con grows riskier, Vero has to wonder, what does Victor really want, and why can't she stay away? Okay, so I think it's important to know that this is a vampire story, even though I guess, yeah, that's a spoiler. It doesn't say it in the synopsis. I do think that's important because if you're not a vampire girly and you start reading this because you're oh, it's dark academia, Academia, the con artist art history vibe is interesting to me, and then you get vampires, you'd be like, what the heck, you know? So I think that's important to note. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I will say it is a novella. It's not a full-length novel. She does novellas here and there that are audio only, like, what was that one called? Play. Let me look it up. Two Can Play. Like a couple years ago, she released Two Can Play. It was a Spotify exclusive audiobook, and then eventually you could listen to it on Libby, and then they just released a physical bind-up of it, which is really cool, and I wouldn't mind owning that, to be honest, because that one was really cute as well. I don't know. I feel like Ali Hazelwood has such a talent for making a novella feel fully fleshed out and not rushed, and also so cute, and you're so invested in the characters. I don't really know how she does that. I'm not a writer, so I can't speak to that, but I really liked this one. I thought it was really cute. I liked Victor as a character. I thought that the audiobook was really good. I really liked the narrators and their voices because I'll be honest, let's be honest, sometimes that's a deal breaker. Sometimes it is. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I would honestly really recommend it. I thought it was really good, and I'd probably listen to it again. It was cute. So those are all of the books that I finished, read / listened to in the first quarter of the year. I am hoping to seriously step up my game. I'm really excited. We just got a new Carly Fortune release that I will be jumping into as ASAP as possible, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some new recommendations from it. Let me know down in the comments if you are interested in reading any of these books. I'd love to know. All of my social media links are in the description box below, and I will see you next time. Bye!